One of the heads of the beast appeared to be mortally wounded, but the mortal wound was healed, and the whole world marveled and followed the beast. They worshipped the dragon who had given authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? And who can wage war against it?" Who can make war with the beast indeed? Hey everyone, Johnny here, Don't Speak News. Well, that's from a video I just put up a little while ago. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it, about who can make war with the beast, referring to the Antichrist Donald Trump. And with the emphasis being on Revelation 13, verse 4, which is where that statement is made. Now, to go along with that, as I looked up Revelation 13:4, because I wanted to get it right, but then after I looked it up, I was looking at the cross references here. And as I started reading through them, I noticed how they all just kind of flowed together and told the story. And so I thought, what a great way to put together a video about the Antichrist, is just let the Bible tell the story with all the cross references here. So that's what I did, and that's what I listed for the Bible verses that I used right there. So that kind of worked out really well. Thank you, Lord. Now, on to the story at hand, right? Story at hand. Story at hand. Sorry about that. I'm tired. It's been a long night. It's been a long weekend for all of us, right? As we've been anticipating and waiting for this war to begin. And like I said 48 hours ago in my last video, it was going to start within 48 hours or less. Well, it was less. And one of the reasons it was less, according to what I've been reading, was because of the target of opportunity, which was Khomeini himself. And that they started the attack earlier than they anticipated, because he presented himself as a target of opportunity, along with other senior leaders of Iran. And now they're being run by this Revolutionary Council, I think it's called, temporarily until they can get a new Ayatollah in place. So we'll see how it goes. But like I told you before in this article I wrote yesterday on don'tspeaknews.com about another war with Iran, what I said was, well, let's just go look at it. Even if they do kill him, it won't make much difference because they already had plans for this. The Ayatollah himself said this. Like it says here, now reports are coming in that the Iranian leader, Khomeini, is dead, as Netanyahu just announced it to the world in a televised address. If so, then they made him a martyr. And the Iranians will dig in, not give up, as the U.S. and Israel foolishly believe. And then I put the announcement from Netanyahu there. Well, sure enough, they made him a martyr, as the Iranian state media and government officials have officially declared Ayatollah al-Khomeini a martyr following his death and the U.S.-Israel strike in his compound in Tehran. The announcement was made by multiple semi-official outlets, and of course now we know it's official, as the Iranian government themselves have come out and confirmed this. And said there will be 40 days of mourning, but the war will continue. It's not like they're going to stop launching missiles against Israel and the United States and even Europe now, from what I understand. In fact, let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. I saw it on Hal Turner radio this morning. There it is. Iran missiles head towards Cyprus, which means Europe, because the British have a base there, where they've been launching attacks in conjunction with the U.S. and Israel. So when not our war becomes welcome to World War III, 2 Iranian missiles just flew towards Cyprus, a European Union member state, and home to thousands of British troops, and the UK Defense Secretary has confirmed it publicly. So now let that sink in. Iran is now, by definition, struck Europe. Not a proxy, not a militia, not regional tensions, Europe. But don't worry, we're told. This war was strategic. This escalation was contained. This spiraling chaos was all under control. Of course it was, right? Western leaders spent months cheerleading escalation as if it were a school rugby match, insisting that poking a nuclear ambitious theocracy was responsible global leadership. Now missiles are landing in EU airspace. British service members are in direct danger, and the same politicians are blinking into the cameras pretending this was all part of the plan. So remind me again, how exactly was this war supposed to stay in the Middle East? This is the part where the commentators who couldn't find Iran on a map suddenly transform into wartime philosophers, urging us to stay the course while they sit safely behind studio lights. Meanwhile, Cyprus, a supposedly peaceful European outpost, just found itself pulled into the blast radius of a conflict that didn't start. Yeah, so even the Israelis who have made Cyprus home aren't safe there anymore. And they left Israel to move to Cyprus because of the war that they had with Iran last June, the 12-day war. So a bunch of Israelis moved over to Cyprus, and I've had confirmation from people who live there and support this channel that that's true. There's a whole bunch of them living there now. Well, guess what? You're not safe there either. And you're part of this war, whether you want to be in Cyprus or Israel or whatever. So here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to say out loud. A war with Iran is not a regional dust-up. It is the textbook opening sequence of a global conflict. The alliances are already lined up. The grievances are already decades deep. Russia and China are watching, laughing, and calculating their next move. I got more to say about China here in a minute. So tell me sincerely, how does this not end in World War III? We keep pretending that Europe can fan the flames in the Middle East without getting burned. We keep pretending that poking a sworn enemy will never provoke retaliation. We keep pretending that missiles don't cross borders just because the Foreign Office wishes they didn't. And now here we are, a European island suddenly in the trajectory of Iranian rockets. And Western leaders are still playing shock and denial. So please, someone explain one more time how this war was a good idea. Because Europe just got its first warning shot and the next one might not miss. Al Turner remarks that everyone criticizing Iran for striking the Gulf and Cyprus, what do you expect when you kill their leader, bomb the hell out of them, and explicitly say you want to topple the regime? The Iranians are fighting for their survival. They have nothing left to lose. I agree completely. That was the one big reason this war was a terrible idea, and now we're stuck with it. Yeah, 92 million Iranians and the entire Muslim world inflamed against the U.S. and Israel. What do you think's going to happen? Of course, they're already talking about, the Department of Homeland Security about Iranian sleeper cells being activated here in the U.S. and elsewhere, Europe probably. But my point was on Telegram this morning, is it really going to be Iranian sleeper cells? Or will it be a Mossad and we'll have dancing Israelis just like we did on 9/11? Because it was Israel that did most of that work, and the United States government let it happen. And then we have the dancing Israelis who were actually arrested, but then sent back to Israel, of course. And they were there to film the whole thing. They said so when they got back to Israel and were interviewed on television. So any sleeper cells in the U.S., they might just be Mossad. You never know. And then we have, let's see here, more reports. And now this report, we're going to go back to my report that I put up yesterday about another war with Iran. So how long will this war last, I said. Well, I'm not sure, but according to wire reports coming in, and it was confirmed today, Trump is already going taco, which stands for Trump always chickens out, less than 24 hours into the operation. Why? Well, because a few hours after Iran's large-scale operation against American bases in the region, Donald Trump conveyed a message to Tehran through Italy, calling for an immediate ceasefire. And like I said yesterday, I'm sure Iran told him to pound sand as they consider this attack a declaration of war by the U.S. and Israel. And they plan on seeing it through to the end. Well, they did tell them to go pound sand. They said absolutely not. And they said it right away. They did not hesitate. And that was confirmed today. I put it over on Telegram again. So now Iran can, like it says here from Al Jazeera, Iran considers the U.S.-Israel strikes a declaration of war, not a limited operation. So there you go. And of course, as for all the peace talks between the U.S. and Iran, I think we should all be able to see the lies now. Netanyahu confirmed this as well. These peace talks were just a ruse so they could build up their capabilities again and plan this attack. And like I said yesterday, the talks were never about peace. They were about seeing if Iran would capitulate and just roll over and play dead. So Israel could bomb them with impunity, just like they've been doing to Syria. Iran isn't going to capitulate. And once the US and Israel realized that, then the war began. But it really began in earnest because, like I said, they had a target of opportunity with Khomeini. So now Bibi just revealed the real goal all along was regime change and the destruction of Iran and all of its infrastructure to keep the people weak. So here it is. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu announces that Israel indeed joined the ongoing American air campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran, saying the goal is to eliminate the Islamic Republic forever from the map. So it happened to simply eliminating the nuclear missile programs. Guys, that was never the goal. The goal was always regime change. Now there are questions about whether or not the U.S. has the capability to actually accomplish that, as Tucker Carlson reported yesterday. Current estimates suggest that the United States is so low on some munitions, partly because we've used them in the defense of Israel already in the last 12 months. Also, Ukraine. How much stuff have we sent over there that we can't use now? But whatever the case, the United States is so low on certain kinds of munitions that we were to have even, if we were to have even a brief but intense engagement with Iran, which we are right now, our military would not be ready for like 10 years to fight a real war against a peer or near peer adversary. So there you go. Unless you read the rest on your own, which some of you probably already have, as I put this up yesterday. And that's what I'm going to do from now on. Sometimes I'm not going to jump on with a video right away. I'm going to go over to the website so I can kind of group my thoughts together and then report on this later. And then I can refer back to all the things I've been reporting on. It makes it easier because it's all in one place. So that's another reason I'm doing that. And then the Russians, God Soldiers Ministries put this up earlier today. The Russians are threatening retaliation against Europe following U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran, which resulted in the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. While the Russian government has not officially declared military action, senior propagandists and commentators have issued alarming statements, which they always do. Vladimir Solovyov, a prominent Russian TV host, claimed on his show, Solovyov Live, that it's clearly time to strike their little house, referring to European nations, and suggested that Donald Trump had unwittingly untied our hands for such action. Now, the Kremlin stance remains more restrained, but still strongly condemnatory. President Vladimir Putin called Khamenei's death a murder committed in cynical violation of all norms of human morality and international law. The Russian Foreign Ministry denounced the U.S. operation as an unprovoked act of armed aggression and a breach of international law, warning it could lead to a regional catastrophe. Although no direct military threat has been issued by the Russian government, pro-Kremlin voices like Solovyov and analysts such as Sergei Khrunikov and Dmitry Simes have framed Europe as complicit in the conflict, blaming countries like Estonia for waging war against Russia. Of course they are. These statements reflect a growing rhetorical escalation, raising concerns about potential spillover into Europe, despite the absence of formal military announcements. Well, like I showed you earlier, it's already spilled over into Europe, at least into Cyprus, because there's the big RAF base right there. I'm sure that's what they were shooting at because, as we now know, the UK is involved in this operation as well. So they'll be getting shot at wherever they are in the Middle East. That much certain. And Europe itself may have to wonder, because Iran does have missiles that can reach them. So we'll have to see how this goes. But they're promising, Iran is promising retaliation like we've never seen before. And so we'll see, like I said, we'll see how this all plays out. But I would not doubt it in the least. Now, the CIA told Big Brain Trump that killing Khomeini might make things worse, but he did it anyway. Of course he did. So right here, this is from winterwatch.net. He's collecting some things from x.com. Trump wanted regime change. His own CIA told him killing Khomeini might make things worse, so he did it anyway. Because I think that's the whole point here, to make things worse. So the assessment was reduced 2 weeks ago. If Khomeini dies, hardline IRGC commanders likely take over, which they have. Men whose identity is military, not theological. Yep. Then Iran's Hormuz gambit was one massive problem. It hurts China more than America. The Strait of Hormuz just closed. Oil spiked 12% in hours. The move looks devastating, except 84% of the oil moving through that strait goes to Asia. China alone imports 5 million barrels a day. Or we better look at that and make sure that's correct. Is it a day or is it a month? Let's take a look on x.com here if it'll come up. I've noticed the internet here has been really slow this afternoon. It's actually been slow all day. I have to wonder if we aren't getting hacked. If the backbone of the internet in the US is going to go down. It very well could. So eventually it'll come up. I've had lots of delays today. 5 million barrels a day through it. That's what China alone imports through the strait. Meanwhile, only 6% is destined for Europe and America, which has its own strategic petroleum reserve and domestic shale production to cushion the blow. It's still going to jack the prices up, guys. If I were you, if you need some fuel in your cars today, I would go do it before the markets open up here this evening. So here's the kicker. 90% of Iran's oil exports go to China through the same strait. Iran just threatened to sink its own economy to hurt an enemy that won't feel it as badly as its closest ally will. Beijing has been Iran's lifeline for years, buying sanctioned oil, keeping the regime financially breathing. China didn't sign up for an energy crisis. That's why Iran has threatened to close Hormuz for decades and never actually done it. The threat is the weapon. The closure itself is a self-inflicted wound, but tonight they pulled the trigger anyway. Yes, they have, which tells you something about how desperate or how concerned Tehran feels right now. Yep, their backs are against the wall, like Hal Turner said. What do you expect them to do? They've been told that their regime is going to end. They're going to be toppled and taken over. What country wants to go through that? So, of course, they're going to pull out all the stops and do everything they can, including closing the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to greatly affect China. So now you have to ask yourself, what's China going to do in return? What are they going to do for the U.S. taking away all their oil, or a good chunk of it? Well, I can tell you one thing. The United States of America did the same thing to Japan right before they attacked Pearl Harbor. They basically choked Japan off of their entire oil supply. And of course, Japan needed that to continue their wars. And so Japan did what they had to do, being backed into the corner with no way out. They attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor to try and stop this oil embargo that was put upon them. And now what do you think China's going to do? Who do you think they're going to blame? Iran just had their top of their leadership wiped out. And they have been, shock and awed type of thing. They've been bombed to oblivion so far by the U.S. and Israel. I shouldn't say to oblivion, but they've been bombed heavily. They lost an entire school full of girls. An all-girls school got bombed, and over 60 of them were killed by Israel and the United States. Unreal. I mean, it just never fails, of course, in war. The innocents always suffer the most. I'm just so sick of it. Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, not the warmongers. And yet, somehow, everyone thinks the opposite is true here in America. Unreal. And of course, we have the timing of all of this and how it lines up with the Jewish holiday of Purim. And now we have this blood moon that's coming up very soon on March 3rd. So just in a couple of days to go along with everything else, right? And this all these planets that lined up yesterday in conjunction, in case you guys weren't aware of that. I think that's one of the reasons they actually started the attack on the 28th, because of how all the planets were lined up. So I don't have that pulled up right now. It's just so much to look at here. But Purim, or the Festival of Lots, is a joyous holiday that celebrates the biblical story of the rescue of the Jews in ancient Persia. So Israel initiated its attack against Iran on the eve of Purim and on Zakor, a pre-Purim observance. Listen to the rabbi as he explains that Jews have a sacred duty to kill enemies of the Jewish people, Amalekites, including women and children, in all times, in all places. And he doesn't flinch. That's their mentality, guys. So I'll let you listen to that on your own on the Telegram account, which is where I posted this. But it's about 3 minutes long if you'd like to listen to it. But here's a Substack from Black Box Politics on Substack.com. And we're going to pull that up right here as he has a good explanation for what's really going on. Oops, sorry about that. I accidentally hit the wrong button here on my screen sharing panel. Trying to move it out of the way so I can look at things a little better. But Trump attacks Iran, the sum of all fears, exoteric and esoteric warfare, continued implementation of the New World Order and the Great Reset. So we're going to talk about the esoteric truth behind Iran and the Venezuela attacks, along with the continued implementation of the New World Order and Great Reset. Wars, rumors of wars, the mocking tongue ritual, World War III. He's got a lot of stuff in this particular blog post called What's the Deal over on Substack. So, Trump attacks Iran on February 28th, 2026, continued year seven. Year seven of the New World Order / Great Reset. 2026 is a continuation of 2019 while the world cluelessly watches on. Most analysts will tell you 2026 is the year that it is all just beginning. But it's not, guys. It's been going on for a while. Daily Critique from What's the Deal was the first and only analyst to report and show in 2019 the official end of the American Old World Order was declared on live TV in 2019, with COVID-19 being the first full day of the New World Order. And you can see that right over here with this link. So we'll play a little bit of this for you, if I can get it to play. Like I said, the internet's being nice and slow today. Dun, dun, dun. Well, maybe we'll get it up here. There it goes.
Today is the first full day of the New World Order. Outdoor gatherings are limited to 2 people. Exercise is allowed, but no further than a 10-kilometre radius from your home. Browsing in shops is not permitted. Only 1 person per household may leave to do essential.
And there you go. That was the official announcement of the first day of the New World Order, and that was in late 2019. So back to the matter at hand here. We're going to scroll down to what's going on today. And the esoteric truth about the attack in Iran, same as Venezuela. The coordinated attack on Iran by the United States and Israel is the same rhyme and reason as the attack on Venezuela, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Official implementation of the New World Order under the guise of esoteric propaganda, such as, but not limited to, freedom for Americans and for whoever and whatever country's population that's being attacked or invaded. Defending America is another one. This is the propaganda, like I said, like it says here, that they put in front of us. Defeating or defending against communism, striving or staving off a takeover or attack from the Eastern Power Bloc, BRICS. And then, of course, as we know, General Wesley Clark revealed that shortly after 9/11, he was informed of a Pentagon plan to target 7 countries in 5 years: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. Of course, that 7 years has turned into 20 plus, but I think you get the point. So, an overview of Clark's statement in a 2007 interview, retired General Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, described being shown a memo at the Pentagon shortly after the September 11th attacks. The memo outlined a plan to destabilize or take military action against 7 countries over 5 years, starting with Iraq and ending with Iran. I'll let you read the rest on your own. Now, Clark emphasized this plan was part of a broader U.S. strategic objective in the Middle East, though he criticized it as targeting the wrong countries and ignoring the real sources of terrorism. I'm not sure if Clark knew or not that terrorism itself was being funded mostly by world governments in order to cause, number 1, destabilization itself, or number 2, cause problems for the Eastern Power Bloc. 2, for example, the Mujahideen or Taliban was created in the 1980s by the West in order to fight against the Russians' Eastern Power Bloc in Afghanistan. This purposeful destabilization would then cause the needed invasions by the West under the guise of security, freedom, and needed regime change. Regime change in said country then leads to support and implementation of world governance by pre-approved and pre-selected puppets. That's why they're doing this, guys. One of the big reasons. The West's involvement in Ukraine since 2014, for example, to preset day with the present day with the installation of Zelensky is another example of false regime change for the purpose of world governance. Trump socially engineers the general public with exoteric nationalist propaganda while implementing the new world order. So he says, all I want is freedom for the people, and of course, it's going to be more freedom and prosperity for them, while more enslavement, death, and destruction for us is what it truly means. But that's the esoteric. The exoteric is what you see on the outside. The esoteric is what's going on behind the scenes. So now the breakdown of the video is the mission of attacking Iran is not to protect or defend the American people. The real mission is the continued implementation of the New World Order, a Great Reset. Attacking Iran and Venezuela are part of the real mission of world governance. Defending Americans or freedom is the scapegoat, propaganda, and socially engineered exoteric deception. Trump wants Americans to believe Iran is the bigger threat to the U.S. than the U.S. dollar, economy, and consumer, having already collapsed into a depression worse than 1929, which began actually in 1920. As first and only reported and warned by Dylan Critique from What's the Deal, in 2020 itself to present day with continuous updates well beyond any other analyst. And there's a video here showing how the U.S. economy has already collapsed, and that began in 2020 with all of the COVID stimulus money. So war is and always has been used by the eugenic class or ruling class to cover up changing world orders and collapsing empires, such as the United States since 2019. They then tell the population those wars are based on freedom or security. Trump would give two shites about the Iranian people's freedom, and the American people's freedom for that matter. This is about reordering the world, carving up geography and demographics. Trump has offered immunity to Iranian fighters to surrender and give up or face certain death. Trump has called for the Iranian people to overthrow their own horrific government so it can be replaced by world governance for a better future. Of course, laughable. Trump says we're attacking Iran for the future of the world governance and that it is a noble mission. Trump states that there will be many American casualties in the fight for the implementation of world governments and the overthrowing of sovereign nations. Trump states the implementation of world governance over sovereign nations will be a long-term campaign with many casualties. The point of these comments is not to sympathize with Iran, rather to show world governance is overthrowing all sovereign nations, good or bad, in coordinated fashion and not for the better. And so we also had, of course, the kidnapping of Maduro back in January. So in 2017, continuing into 2025, the U.S. stopped Venezuela from selling oil and accessing U.S. stock markets, which the country was reliant on. This lack of access to liquidity and wealth sent the country of Venezuela deep into poverty and thus hyperinflation, debt by relying on the printing press to make up for the lack of oil revenue and stock access. And here are some of the headlines showing that back in 2017. So the collapse of Venezuela was then blamed completely on corruption, Maduro, and not mainly U.S. bullying and abuse of power, which is what it was. That's not to say corruption, among other things, didn't have its part. Of course it did. But due to U.S. bullying on purpose by design, Maduro had begun closing up to BRICS, the Eastern Power Bloc, which threatens the U.S. Western Power Bloc, American Old World Order, and Empire. Like we said on this channel many times, the power blocks have been switching, and all the manufacturing base and everything else has been moved from the West to the East, and that began in earnest in the 1970s, when all the American jobs are getting sucked away to Asia, and then, of course, now down to Mexico and other places. Which is all part of the plan, so they can implement their new world order. They are rearranging things, like, chess pieces on the board. So now Trump executed a no-knock raid on Maduro and his wife to keep the Venezuela region in the hands of the American Old World Order and out of the hands of the Eastern Power Bloc and New World Order of BRICS. This move could also be used to make a deal with BRICS and Maduro. And so I'll let you read the rest on your own. But like he says here, I guess I do need to read this part because this is important. We've talked about this too. They have, within the New World Order faction, that they all agree that we need a new world order and a global government, worldwide government. And so they all agree on that part. What they don't agree on is they don't always agree on who's going to get what and who's going to control what. And that's what we have going on right now, according to Dylan here. And I tend to agree, at least for how these people look at things. So he says, even though BRICS is indeed a socially engineered geopolitical psyop paradigm and dialectic used against the American old world order and used as cover for coordinated world governance execution, in this particular update, I see this attack on Venezuela by Trump as part of the infighting of the elites I've mentioned while continuing to still execute world governance as planned. I also do not always mention this in order to not be repetitive at all times and turning every article into a book. Indeed, it's not easy to do. It's like I'm trying not to turn these videos into movies, or long, boring documentaries where I'm just reading all day. So I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not boring you to death. But I think there's a genuine battle within the eugenic class, Eastern elites versus Western elites, on who is really going to claim dibs on Venezuela itself and who's really willing to go to war over it. Much like the game of Risk in real time as the world order changes, Venezuela is incredibly strategic and, of course, has oil among other things. Yeah, like lots of gold and other rare earth minerals. It's like two wolves from the same pack tearing apart the same lamb. They both are on the same page and want to eat the lamb, or the world, but there are infighting or disputes as to who gets what and of how much. After all, there's no honor among thieves. Indeed, there isn't. I'll leave it at that. I'll let you read the rest on your own. But make no mistake, they've made Khamenei a martyr. The Iranians are going to fight on, probably harder than ever. And the Russians, well, they're giving some serious thought about retaliating against Europe for their participation in all of this. And of course, Iran will continue to attack U.S. bases and everything throughout the Middle East. So, wow, guys. Now we have missiles headed towards Cyprus, Europe. I saw that this morning. I thought, yeah, this one is different. This one feels completely, completely different. So that will be it for now. Wow. So much to talk about, so much to share, so much to report on. I have to reshare the content. There we go. Hit the wrong button again. But like I said, everything's been kind of a half-second delay or a full second delay to where I click something and it takes a half a second or so for it actually to work. It's been a weird day computer-wise. And like I said, I'm sure our internet's being attacked now because Iran, I'm sure, will be cyber attacking us at the same time they're doing everything else. And I'm sure China and Russia will probably participate in that part at least, if not the actual shooting war itself. So we'll see how it goes. But don't forget, don'tspeaknews.com is home base for all that we do. In case you're not watching the video there now, this is our home base, in case you're new here as well, because we do get new people every day. So this is home base, and this is where I put stories like this one here, and many more like it, stuff we can't speak about anyplace else. If you want to subscribe to the channel, there's a box to do so at the bottom of every article. Or you can click on subscribe, contact Johnny right here at the top. And then once you click on that tab, the box will pull up right here. So put in your email, click on subscribe, and you're in. Don't Speak News at Proton Mail is how you get in touch. Channel support tab is right here. We are listener supported only. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So thank you to everyone who helped support us here this past month. I just got done paying the internet and stuff here yesterday. So thank you very, very much for that. But we're always in need of support as we're always expanding and trying to continue our mission. And things keep getting more expensive. So all the links to support us are right underneath that tab. And Rumble, BitChute, and Telegram, all the places to find us around the internet are right underneath this tab right here. And there we go. And that, folks, will be it for now. Prayed up and prepped up at all times. Time is getting very short. God bless, take care. Johnny Storm. Don't Speak News.